Welcome back. Today I'm going to do part 2 of my How to Interview for Jobs in English series. I think I'm going to probably make 3 of these videos, so this will be the second one. In part 1, I talked about something that I don't think enough people talk about, and that's the importance of small talk and how you make a great first impression, especially if you're speaking to an American business person from the US. And it is one of those things that most people just don't put the work in. So it's super important. You can see this video here. There's also a link below in the description of this video. Now today, I'm going to be talking about something just as important, and that's how to prepare your interview answers without sounding memorized or sounding fake. Because here's what I see all the time with my clients as they're trying to prepare for some interviews that they have. They work so hard to memorize interview answers. And then when the interview happens, they freeze in the moment when the interviewer asks the question that they didn't prepare for. There's really, really a much better way. And I'm going to go through this just as I would with any client. I'm a huge believer in what I call behavioral interview questions. And that doesn't mean that you're always going to get behavioral interview questions, but it's a great way to prepare for your interviews in English. And I'm going to show you what I mean by that here as I go through this video. If you're a non-native English speaker, I completely understand why you want to memorize your possible interview answers. You want to feel safe. You want to feel prepared. But let me tell you that as someone that's coached executives for years, and I've coached a lot of people looking for jobs as well, memorized answers make you sound stiff, robotic, and really disconnected. And the worst part about all of it is that people just fall apart the second that an interviewer asks something slightly different from the question that you prepared for. You prepared, tell me about a time you resolved a conflict. But the interviewer asks something like this: what's an example of a difficult person you had to work with? Same theme, but different question. Your memorized answer breaks the whole thing. Your confidence just drops immediately, and you look unprepared, even if you studied for hours. Here's a better way, and it works beautifully for non-native English speakers. Instead of memorizing answers, remember stories. Instead of memorizing sentences, remember moments. Instead of memorizing perfect grammar, remember real experiences. And here's why. When you talk about things that actually happened, you naturally speak more clearly, more confident, and you speak with feeling. Real stories don't need perfect grammar. And I mean this. Perfect grammar means nothing in job interviews. Nothing. They're not hiring you based on your English experience. They're really hiring you to see if you can do this job. Of course, we're all going to make mistakes speaking in English if it's not our native language. That's okay. That's fine. Don't worry about it. Answer your questions with some feeling in these things and be able to give great examples. Real stories make you sound like a human. And that's what interviewers really, really want. Well, let's take a look at what I'm talking about here with these behavioral questions. I think behavioral questions are simple. They usually start with, tell me about a time when, or give me an example of, or describe a situation where. Now, these kind of questions, they help the interviewer understand how you think, how you work, and how you solve problems. They don't want your theory on things. They want evidence, like real, actual evidence. And your past behavior is the best evidence you've got. It's a really great example of things that you've actually done. So to walk through this, I'm going to introduce the STAR method that's used by a lot of different people. And I don't want you to memorize your interview answers, but I do want you to organize your stories. And that's where this STAR method helps. And it stands for S is situation. What was happening? T was task. What was your responsibility? A is action. What did you do? And R is the result. What happened in the end? You don't need to memorize sentences. You memorize the story and how it happened from your point of view. That keeps your answers clear, focused, and really confident because you don't have to sound scripted. All these things actually happened to you. So you don't have to memorize them. You're the only one that really knows what happened. And let me show you why this really, really works for non-native English speakers that are trying to get a job. Because the beautiful thing about this method is that non-native speakers become more fluent when they talk about real memories, especially when they have some feeling that's involved in them. When you explain something that actually happened to you, your vocabulary comes naturally. Your emotions give rhythm to your story, and your English becomes a lot clearer. But when you try to invent perfect theoretical answers, your brain locks up, your voice tightens, and your English becomes shaky. Real stories unlock natural speaking. And it really works. It's just amazing when I help people prepare, just telling your stories. So here's the way I coach my clients. I ask people to go through these possible behavioral questions that somebody might ask you. And the reason is that when you're prepared and you can comfortably and confidently answer these questions, the purpose is that now you can use these as examples for almost any question that you are asked in the interview. So it's not that you're memorizing these things. It's that you're preparing yourself so that you can remember actual things that happened and use those as easy examples to the questions that you're really being asked. So what I want you to do is collect your stories. Sit down and think about these 10 moments in your career. Let's go through these. A challenge that you solved, a project you improved, a conflict you resolved, a mistake you learned from, a success you're proud of, a time you helped someone, a decision you made, a stressful situation that you handled, a time you took initiative, a moment you showed leadership. Now, I want you to write down just enough to remember. STAR method. Situation, task, action, result. Once you have these 10 stories, and you can explain these 10 stories in a simple way, follow the STAR method, it really works. Then you're ready for almost any question the interviewer can throw at you. They can ask 30 different questions, but you answer all of those questions using examples, using these stories. These stories are perfect to get you to really remember and think about what actually happened. And by giving not just, well, what I would do in the future is this. No, tell people what you've actually done, how you actually solved some of these things, how you reacted to different situations. And it's by having these different examples that really happened to you. You're the only one that knows what happened. So use these. You can't be wrong. It's what happened to you. That's not a wrong answer. You're going to be able to speak about them much more naturally. So that's what I want you to do in preparing for those types of things. So let me give you a little example. You could say something like, I am a hardworking person who always finishes my tasks on time, and I'm very good at communication. Well, that sounds really rehearsed. But instead, giving some kind of natural story might sound something like this. A few months ago, my team was falling behind on a project. So I suggested we try a daily check in to track progress. I led the meetings, and within 2 weeks, we were ahead of schedule. My manager asked me to share the process with another team. Now, which answer sounds much more memorable to you? Of course, the one that has the real story. And it's going to be this way every time. It works, and it's easy preparation for you. To make this even easier, I guess, the way I would look at this is to use this expand and build principle. I shared this with you in part one, in the first video in this series, where I talked about the importance of small talk and active listening. Now, you're going to use the same skills here. When you answer a behavioral question, don't just give the minimum answer. Expand, build. Give a tiny little extra detail. Show your thinking. Share what you learned. That's what makes your answer feel alive. That's especially what US business interviewers really love. So don't just answer the question. Give a little who, what, why, where, how, expand, build on those answers. Share a little bit more. Don't share less. You really want to build some trust and rapport with people. That's what makes a huge difference. Now, you need a little bit of mindset shift here. And the goal of the interview is really not to impress the interviewer. Really, it's to help them understand you. And you do that by sharing real stories, not memorized lines and perfect grammar. That's not what's going to do it. It's not your perfect English. It's real memories, real lessons that you experienced, real examples. That's what gets you hired. So what's next? Well, in the next video, in part 3, I'm going to bring everything together. Small talk, real stories, and confident communication, all in an actual interview simulation with my little friend here on screen. You'll see how the full flow of a real job interview goes and how you can sound natural, confident, and ready just by being yourself. If you're enjoying this series, share a little story about your interview, struggles, or maybe your success. And remember, you don't need perfect English. You need real stories. Please like this video, subscribe to the channel, share your comments, and I also invite you to learn your Business English Confidence Score. You'll find the link in the description below this video.